Hi friends, all right, I'm going to work on finishing my journey, and one thing I did forget to mention is right around the time that they started to discover the neuropathy and the arthritis in the hips, but right before that period though, I was racing against time to get answers because my job had started changing their policy that if you were full-time, you had to work the minimum required of hours, which was now 36 hours a week to maintain your full-time position. So I still had this angel boss at this time, I always called him. I did lose him later on, which caused havoc in my world. But at this time, I still had him. But I was working on trying to get these answers of what was going on with me. And he came to me and he said, Irene, I am so sorry. I have my hands tied. This is nothing that I can do about this. This is coming from corporate because I worked for a corporate company. But I was going to have to work these 36 hours when I was barely making it at that part-time hour, level that he was working me. So I said, well, can I have a stool, and he said, if you get a doctor's note, then no problem. Well, you could work with a stool. So I ran to the doctor. First thing I did was get this note from the doctor saying that I had to have a stool, access to a stool to, do my job off and on through the day, right? So I do get that notice, which was, oh my gosh, this was really what I needed at this time. And because I think at that time I had that dead end with that, neurologist that was a little wacky, right? And I was trying to work on finding a new neurologist. At the same time, she was sending me to the other testing, when they started to find the severe arthritis in my hips and everything. And so I'm increased in hours. I'm working these 36 hours with still no answers. It was getting incredibly hard for me. At that point, I couldn't even clean my house for 3 months while I'm now waiting for the transfer, get the new neurologist. I mean, literally, I had to pick and choose what I could do in my world. So I literally had to let my house go, other than when my ex-boyfriend would, he was just a friend. So we were just getting together every so often and doing things together, getting to know each other, but just friends. And once in a while he would come over and kind of help me, but he wasn't technically my boyfriend at that time. So I was really grateful for that kind of help. But other than that, I just was trying to work. Everything I had was just trying to keep working, keep getting my medical benefits, keep getting a paycheck, right? I had now 2 dogs at that, no, 3 dogs. So I had Buster, Milo, and a little Griffon, Millie, at that time. So I was just trying to keep me and my dog family together, keep working, try to get these answers, okay? So now this is where the thought process came to me too, where I started to think, oh my gosh, I mean, I was so incredibly weak. How could I live without my legs? I just felt like I was using, again, scooters to shop. I was, just really battling being on my feet, other than when I was working. When I was out of work, I had no quality of life. And I kept thinking, as I became weaker and weaker, how could I live without my legs? How could I live without the strength of my legs? I really started to think I was going to be permanently wheelchair bound. I mean, because I had no answers. I didn't know what was going on. I definitely had all this tingling, more going on. But I finally now get to this new neurologist. I get the answers now of the neuropathy that you all saw in that last video. And this is where this journey now picks up that I was explaining when I was over by the lake, okay? So now we're going to pick up. Things start to get better. And I start to now get my answers, though. It's through this next process of my journey of what that mystery condition that I had been struggling with for 20 years, all right? So here we go. All right, so by this time, I have seen the neurologist, and he puts me on gabapentin, which ended up changing my world. They were going to put me on another medicine, and I said, no way. I read the side effects, and I said, I am not taking that medicine. So we tried the gabapentin, but they put me on the large dose right from the beginning, okay? And I had trouble with it, I will admit. And I was working, and they started me off at 300 milligrams a day, and then I guess the goal was to get to 2 and then 3 or something like that. But I couldn't even get through the 300 in a day. By the second dose, I was right after work running to a store and getting Mylanta and just downing that and going, oh my gosh, this is awful. But I had dogs that were on the gabapentin, and so they did fine on it, and I had a little dog on the 100. So I knew that they made a 100. So I called the doctor and I said, can you please put me on the 100 and let's start me more slowly, because my system is very, very sensitive. I knew that about my system. It's very, very sensitive to things. And he said, yeah, okay, we could do that. And so I wasn't willing to give it up. And so we slowly built me up. And even to this day, I've been able to stay on some pretty low dosage. So I'm pretty lucky about that because of my body being so sensitive. But when I started that, I felt like I was a 20-year-old. I was just like, I had leg strength that I didn't have in a long time. And I was just like, oh my gosh. So I was now had a boyfriend, so an ex-boyfriend now, but a boyfriend at that time that we were just getting to know each other at that time. So he became my hiking buddy. And we were traveling and seeing some things and hiking, and I just was like, I was on vacation. I was just going and going and going and going, and let's go here, let's go hike here. And oh my gosh, I felt like I have a life back, you know. Well, I ended up overdoing it, and I had a major setback, and so they had to increase my meds, and I had to learn to pace myself, even though I felt better, you know, because I just felt like a little spring chicken again. And I was just like, woohoo, you know, we're just going to go do this, go here, go there. So I did learn to pace myself, and that's also has helped me to stay at a lower dose, okay, off and on. I mean, yeah. So at one point I had to go a little higher, and I've been able to go lower now that I'm not working. So anyways, so I get through that and feeling better and got it everything under control. And then 2012, I'm getting ready for vacation. And I have always dreamed my whole life to see the King Tut exhibit, and it was going to be in Seattle. So me and my boyfriend had, you know, plans to go camp at Whidbey Island And we were going to stay there and then go into Seattle, see the exhibit, and then, but we already had all the arrangements and everything. So this is my last day of work before vacation, before getting ready for this, the trip of my dream, okay, and to see this exhibit. Well, my last day at work, I'm feeling my back. There's something wrong. I'm feeling extremely stiff, a pain and stiffness that I've never felt before. Like it was like my back was becoming more like a board. And it's like I'm wanting to move it. It's just like taking a board and you're trying to move a board. It just doesn't work, right? So I get home and I'm telling my boyfriend, oh, something's wrong. I'm still not feeling right. Well, the Friday the next morning, because I had the way my days off were, I think at that time was Friday, Saturday. So I ended up, my back herniated on a root nerve. And I woke up and it was the most incredible pain I have ever felt in my life. I would scream just to get out of bed, to lift a leg, to get it in and out of a car, a vehicle. I had to get help to get off and on the toilet. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't bend down to put socks on. I mean, it is debilitating. It's just awful. And, but I am stubborn. When you get to know me, I am like, when I have determination, maybe that's why, as you get to know me now, why I stick out so tough in this lifestyle. It is not an easy lifestyle. It is not for everybody. It is not for everybody with disabilities. I'm telling you now, it is very hard and challenging, and even more so for people with disabilities. We'll talk about that more later. But here is a person with a herniated back on a root nerve. We're scheduled by early the next week to see this King Tut exhibit, and nothing was going to stop me from seeing that King Tut exhibit. And I said, all right. And I said to my ex-boyfriend, and I said, we're going to do this, but I'm going to need you more than I have ever needed anybody. As long as you're willing to drive, you're going to have to be the primary driver, because I had extra pain meds for when my cervical spine had herniated. And I said, so I had to be on major pain pills, and I said, when I get back, then I'll go in and see the doctor, go through physical therapy, do everything I already knew that I was going to need to go through because I'd been through it before. And because, oh, I forgot, because I actually, yeah, my lower back had herniated slightly at one time. I forgot. So this was my second incident with the lower spine, because, but my female shepherd and my other dogs were all passing away. They passed away at that time. That was in 2008. So I just remembered that. So I never finished my PT, but I remember that was the first incident, but I came through it more quickly. Okay, so now this incident obviously is more severe. So it is my second incident with the spine, lower spine. So he helps me pack up the truck. We get all the camping stuff in the, I had a, as you saw, my people followed my journey, I had a Tacoma extended cab that I ended up selling when I got the van. So we loaded it up with all the camping gear ready to go. He helped do everything, just about. And he drove most of the way. And I was using a cane, and I was screaming in pain, and oh my gosh, it was quite a challenge. But I saw the King Tut exhibit, so that was the cool thing, and made it back in the most, again, excruciating pain. But I got lucky the day to see the exhibit. My pain level went way down that day and then back up after that, you know. So I was pretty fortunate, pretty lucky though, but I did have to go at a slow pace. So anyways, I get and do the PT exercises and everything, but after this incident, it had left me where I could no longer stand or sit all the time. I really had to juggle those two things all the time in my life to this day. Okay, so I'm balancing those always in my world because this mystery thing that I had was causing the leg weakness, and now the back was causing where I couldn't sit for long periods, right? So by a couple months later, I'm not getting better. So I was like about 53 now, or no, 52, sorry, just shortly after, about 52 and a half or something like that. So I go and I see a neurosurgeon, and he finally, from another MRI that they sent me, he discovers that I have a condition called adult tether cord syndrome. And you're like, what the heck is that, you know? And there's different kinds, like spinal bifida is what kids get, and that's a very serious thing. It's something like that, but just a tad different, but similar. So what this is you have a spinal cord and you have your spinal column and a cord inside there. Well, what happens is it gets pulled and taut, and it's connected to the side of the spinal column, this cord. Now, if it gets down to the L3 level, you're in serious trouble by that point. I mean, your quality of life is pretty bad. Definitely surgery, all kinds of things like that. Mine is not quite at the L3 level, but it is above it, and it's attached at that point. I've never done surgery because even if they do unattach it, I've heard it could retether and you have scar tissue, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm paranoid. That's my level of comfort. I am literally, unless I'm in a wheelchair and I cannot get out, I'm too afraid of them cutting on my back. That's just me. And it's a phobia. It is literally, it's not a matter of, you know, that's just one area that I just can't overcome. It's a phobia. And I don't know why, but I've had them do other things to me in my life, but going to my spine, I don't know. I heard one out of one is successful. So it is very scary for me. That's the reality. So anyways, they find out I have this, now it has a name, adult tether cord syndrome, okay? And so I live with it, and I live with everything else. I've learned to manage and how much I'm on my feet, off of my feet, and I continue to try to work until my job ended up bullying me. All right, so now you've seen also the pictures that I have attached of my condition, because this is the exact kind of adult tether cord that I have. And what happens is it is a genetic thing. You are born with it, and they call it adult tether cord syndrome because symptoms don't usually show up until you become an adult, basically. And I just basically started to have that. The weakness was the first symptom. But you can see, so the cord is supposed to be in the column freely in there, and be able to move with your spine. It's actually more in the center of your spinal column, the cord. And it's supposed to move freely with your spine as you move, but because mine is pulled and it's taut, it doesn't have the movement in the spinal column that it's supposed to have. And I always used to tell people that sometimes it could feel like basically your head is being pulled down to your butt, yeah, because you get so much pressure, you know, from all the way down the spine, and then the leg weakness as it progresses. But that's why physical therapy is so critical in my world, because if I didn't do these PT exercises and keep as limber in the movement and flexibility, helping to keep that flexibility as much as I can keep it, my quality of life would be even far worse than what it has become. So I'm thankful for everything I have learned with the PT exercises. And then also the medications that have helped me to keep me going. And also I got my quality of life back when I ended up not working. Working was definitely just destroying me. The medicines were at such a high level. I was having incredible symptoms. Systematically, just my body was just reacting to the meds to keep me working. And I'm going to be sharing that next story of what happened to my career basically and my job. So stay tuned for the next video as I get into that a little bit more that led me to, you know, go out of my job situation, and also it wasn't just that, it was also what my job was ended up doing to me, because I ended up getting new bosses, they weren't very kind to me or sympathetic to me having disabilities and working for the company, unfortunately. But in this story, remember, it's always about me not giving up. So don't give up. And so I continued to not give up, even though it was very, very challenging. Now, since this time, I have discovered some physical therapists on YouTube, and I do want to put a link to their channel, because for anybody else that is struggling with any kind of issues, I really think it's important to keep moving. You have to keep moving. Find those physical exercises that keep your mobility. And I have to do these exercises for life. I really do, to help me continue to have the quality of life that I have. So a lot of these exercises that I do, these guys also promote because they're physical therapists. So I do want to share this physical therapy channel, or therapist channel, on YouTube, and hopefully many of you out there could benefit too from the knowledge that these guys give people. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that. All right, so stay tuned for the next video as I wrap things up with the remainder of my story after my diagnosis, and that eventually led me to being in my van full time and traveling and making up for lost time. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.